What if the most powerful way to change your life was to say absolutely nothing? What if you could shift your entire world not by effort, not by explanation, not even by speaking about what you want, but by doing something far more radical? Assuming in silence. Neville Goddard once said, "Do not explain, do not justify. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and live in it." This statement isn't poetic. It's a map, a living instruction on how to manifest your desires without ever needing to lift a finger in the outer world. We live in a world obsessed with noise. Social media tells you to declare your goals. The self-help world urges you to affirm louder, to hustle harder, to repeat until something happens. But Neville taught the opposite. Go within and remain there. Assume your desire. Then, in stillness, let the world reflect your change. In this video, you're going to discover what might be the most misunderstood and most powerful truth about manifestation. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to explain your dream. You don't even need to speak of it. You only need to do one thing, and that is to assume the state of the wish fulfilled, inwardly, persistently, and without resistance. And when you do, reality will bend quietly in your favor. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to use your imagination in silence, how to bypass the trap of reactivity, and how to become a silent creator whose assumptions dictate reality, not by force, but by faith. So now I ask you, can you allow silence to become your greatest act of power? Let's begin. Power in inner assumption, not outer resistance. There is a moment, subtle, often unnoticed, when we are tempted to act outwardly, to change something we do not like, to push against it, argue with it, fix it, or explain it away. But Neville Goddard taught something utterly counterintuitive. The moment we do this, we lose. Because the moment you react to a condition as though it is real, you anchor it more deeply in consciousness. You declare without words, "This is the truth," and your world obliges by reinforcing it. You rise to a higher level of being, Neville said, by assuming you already are that which you want to be, and by refusing to descend into being that which you no longer want to be. This refusal is not loud. It's not an argument with what is. It is the silent art of becoming something else inwardly. Imagine this. Your world is a mirror. You don't change the reflection by wiping the mirror. You change it by adjusting your face. Likewise, you don't change the circumstance by battling with it. You change it by assuming the state in which that circumstance no longer exists. Let's bring this to the ground. If a bill arrives and you feel anxiety, that's natural. But what happens next determines everything. Do you spiral into worry? Or do you, just for a moment, assume the state of someone whose finances are always met with ease? If someone ignores your message, do you chase validation? Or do you assume you are already deeply loved, already chosen? The one who reacts believes the outer world is the source of truth. The one who assumes quietly knows the source lies within. Neville emphasized this again and again. Stop trying to change the world. It is only a reflection. Instead, change the conception of yourself. This is where real power begins. It is not in force, it is not in resistance. It is in the quiet shift of identity, the choice to no longer see yourself as a victim of circumstance, but as the cause of it. So ask yourself gently, what part of your life have you been trying to fix from the outside? And what would it feel like to assume, inwardly, that the issue has already resolved? Not as a performance, not to prove anything, but simply to live from that state and let reality catch up. The silence of knowing, manifesting without words. True power does not announce itself. It does not explain. It does not beg. It assumes. Neville Goddard taught that the one who understands the law has no need to speak of their desire, not because they are hiding it, but because they know it is already done. He said, "When you pray, believe that you have received, and you will. Not will receive, not might receive, but have received." The implication is subtle yet profound. If it is already yours, what need is there to talk about it? The silence of the fulfilled man is not the silence of doubt. It is the stillness of completion. But most of us were conditioned to believe the opposite. We are taught to speak about our goals, to get others on board, to look for validation, encouragement, feedback. We are told that unless we declare our desires, we might never reach them. Yet in doing so, in constantly discussing what we want, why we want it, and how we plan to get it, we unknowingly place our consciousness in the future, not the now. We speak from separation, not from union, and so the desire remains just that, a longing, never a possession. Neville was emphatic on this point. In his lecture, The Law of Assumption, he said, "Your assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact." Notice, he does not say your words about the assumption, but the assumption itself. That is, the felt reality you inhabit inwardly, whether or not a single word is spoken. There is a story Neville told of a student who wished to marry a man who showed no romantic interest in her. She did not chase him. She did not speak of her desire to anyone, not even to him. She simply imagined each night before falling asleep that she was already his wife. She assumed the identity inwardly, wore it, felt it, lived in it, and without effort or announcement, circumstances reshaped themselves, and the man eventually proposed. She didn't declare her goal. She became the end, and the world responded. This kind of quiet, creative authority is what Neville called living in the end, and those who live in the end speak differently, or not at all, because silence is not emptiness. In spiritual terms, silence is fullness. It is a chamber filled with the vibration of assumption. It is the inner temple in which your imagined scenes play out, again and again, until the outer world must conform. Florence Scovel Shinn, a contemporary of Neville's, called it the spiritual blueprint. She said, "The invisible forces are ever working for man who is always pulling the strings himself, though he does not know it. Owing to the vibratory power of words, whatever man voices, he begins to attract." But she also warned, when we speak from fear or longing, we attract from that place as well. That is why silence, when practiced consciously, is not avoidance. It is protection. It guards the assumption from dilution. It prevents you from stepping back into the old state by voicing the old story. And there is another reason why Neville urged us to remain silent about our imaginal acts. People may challenge your desire before it has yet appeared in form. They may laugh, doubt, inject fear. And if your conviction is not rooted, their disbelief can shake you. Not because they are malicious, but because they speak from the state they occupy, and every state expresses itself. So Neville advised, go into the silence and commune with self. You do not need to broadcast your desire. Your only task is to feel the fulfillment as real, to dwell in it inwardly until it becomes natural. There is a profound moment that happens when you've assumed deeply enough. You forget the desire was ever a desire. You begin to live from it without effort. And at that point, your words change too, not by force, but because identity has shifted. You may still speak, yes, but what you speak will come from the end, not toward it. You may say, "Of course I'm well provided for," not because you're trying to convince yourself, but because you are. You may say, "I always meet the right people," not as an affirmation, but as an observation of a state that is already true in your world. This is not forced positivity. It is the language of one who lives in the fulfilled state. And sometimes, no words are needed at all. Modern science now echoes what Neville knew decades ago. The field of cognitive science shows that our reticular activating system, the filter in the brain, looks for evidence to confirm our dominant assumptions. Whether those assumptions are voiced or not, they shape what we notice, how we interpret, and what we expect. If you've assumed you are healthy, wealthy, chosen, the brain adjusts perception accordingly. And over time, you begin to move as one who already possesses those things. People sense it. The world reorganizes. That's why the silence of knowing is not passive. It is causal. It is a creative act of the highest order. So let me ask you this. When you think of your desire, do you find yourself wanting to tell someone about it, to explain it, to seek agreement? Or can you sit in it, quietly, as though it is already done? Can you wear it in consciousness without the need for validation? And if it were already true, already complete, what would you no longer feel the urge to say? The one who manifests quickly is rarely the one who speaks often. It is the one who dwells so deeply in the unseen fulfillment that reality, having no choice, catches up. If this idea of creating in silence speaks to you, check the pinned comment. There's something there that echoes exactly what we're exploring. How real change happens before a word is spoken. It might be the reminder you've been waiting for. Living proof of the law. The most powerful demonstration of truth is not found in books, speeches, or theories. It is found in being, in becoming the thing itself. Neville Goddard lived this principle not just as a teacher, but as a man who quietly practiced what he preached. He didn't build an empire. He didn't seek fame. He assumed, revised, imagined, and let the results speak for themselves. His life was the testimony. He told the story of helping his brother, Victor, who needed to lease a building in New York. Instead of giving advice, Neville went into the silence and revised the event in his imagination. He saw Victor already in possession of the building. No negotiation, no interference, just a silent interact. And weeks later, the lease was granted. Victor was unaware of Neville's involvement. He was just living proof of a revised assumption. This quiet creative power is a consistent theme throughout the lives of great manifestors. Florence Scovel Shinn, though she taught spiritual law, never needed to prove her worth. She didn't argue with others' doubts. She lived in the conviction of divine order. She spoke only from her knowing and allowed results to unfold around her. None of these individuals were loud about their process. They were certain. The world has conditioned us to seek validation, to explain our desires, to justify our visions. But those who understand the law of assumption know that the world does not need your explanation. It only needs your alignment. Have you noticed how the most magnetic people rarely talk about what they're trying to do? There's a quiet presence about them, a sense that they already are who they claim to be, not in words, but in being. Their confidence doesn't ask for permission. This is what it means to live as proof of the law. Neville once said, "When you know what you want, you do not discuss your desire. You do it. You assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and live in it. In other words, you become it, long before there is any outer evidence." Imagine someone trying to lose weight who never says a word about dieting, but carries themselves with the ease and energy of someone already healthy, or a person who doesn't speak about financial goals but moves through the day with calm generosity, clear focus, and relaxed abundance. That is living proof. And here's the irony. When you stop trying to manifest to prove something, your world begins to change more rapidly. Why? Because you've let go of the need to convince and have instead assumed the end. There's an elegance in this. It is the way of the artist, the mystic, the master, not the one who performs, but the one who is. Neville didn't teach performance. He taught identity. He taught assumption, the quiet, disciplined act of putting on the state of the fulfilled desire as though it were a garment, not to impress others, but because it is natural to you. Are you willing to wear the state of your desire silently? Not to tell the world you're successful, but to feel success so fully that it becomes unnecessary to speak of it? Can you let your life become the evidence, the quiet unfolding that needs no announcement? The law doesn't respond to noise, it responds to being. When you assume the end and persist, the world has no choice but to follow. Why is it so difficult to stay silent in the face of contradiction? Why do we react? Because we have forgotten who we are. Neville taught that our tendency to react emotionally to outer conditions comes from a deep identification with the senses. We believe the five senses are showing us truth, and so we bow to appearances. We argue with them, fear them, try to change them. In doing so, we forget that consciousness is cause and the senses are effect. This is why reactivity is not just unhelpful. It is a signal that we have slipped back into the illusion of separation. You want to manifest wealth, but the bank account shows lack, so you check it again and again, hoping for change. Yet every emotional reaction to the number you see reinforces the state of scarcity. You are confirming, with feeling, that the lack is real. You want love, but you haven't heard from the person you care about. So you reach out, explain, ask for clarity, and with each word spoken from worry, you are affirming your separation from love itself. Neville said, "To be conscious of being poor while praying for riches is to be rewarded with that which you are conscious of being, namely poverty." In other words, your emotional reaction is not a passive state. It is a creative act, and it is always working, whether in your favor or against it. When you react, you are rehearsing the old state. You are rehearsing being the person without the thing. And through that rehearsal, you cast your vote for the status quo. This is not to say that emotions are wrong. You are human. You will feel. But what Neville urged us to do was catch ourselves quickly, to notice the moment we begin to descend back into the old man, the former state, and gently refuse it. He once described this as dying to the old man. It is the decision, repeated again and again, to no longer dwell in the version of self that aligns with the unwanted condition. Reactivity is seductive. It gives us the illusion of control. To react feels like doing something, but manifestation is not about doing, it's about assuming. not just intellectually, but emotionally, energetically, completely. Think of it this way. Imagine standing before a mirror, frowning, and demanding that the reflection smile back at you. That is what it's like to react to circumstances you have not first shifted inwardly. The mirror only reflects what it sees. The outer world is no different. Neville compared our states of consciousness to psychological garments, invisible clothing we wear. If you wear the state of victimhood, life will seem to mistreat you. If you wear the state of being overlooked, others will not see your worth. But if you assume the state of being chosen, valuable, respected, and persist in it, silently, regardless of appearances, the world must respond in kind. This is why non-reactivity is not passive, it is deeply creative. When you choose to not react, you are not avoiding life, you are instructing it. You are choosing the state that aligns with your desired end, rather than the state that echoes what your senses are currently reporting. This takes discipline. It is not easy to stay silent when your world seems to contradict your inner vision, but that's the threshold most people never cross. And so they remain stuck in cycles of wanting, hoping, reacting, and confirming more of the same. But you have the opportunity to pause, to remember, to feel the truth of what Neville meant when he said, "The world is a mirror, forever reflecting what you are doing within yourself." So the next time you feel triggered, overlooked, unsupported, pause. Ask yourself, what state am I in right now? Am I standing in the old self, begging for change? Or am I wearing the new garment, refusing to be moved by temporary appearances? Non-reactivity is not detachment from life. It is alignment with truth. It is the subtle but powerful stance of the one who has already received. And from that state, creation becomes inevitable. Modern mind science supports the law. For decades, Neville Goddard taught that consciousness is the only reality. To many this seemed mystical, abstract, even unbelievable. But as the decades pass, science begins to echo what mystics always knew. Modern cognitive science, psychology, and neuroscience are now confirming in clinical terms what Neville taught through imagination and feeling. Your beliefs, conscious or unconscious, act as filters, shaping not just how you see the world, but what you experience in it. Let's begin with identity. Studies in psychology show that human beings act in accordance with their self-concept, not their goals, not their hopes, their identity. What you assume yourself to be becomes the organizing principle of your decisions, your attention, your habits, and ultimately, your reality. If you assume you are someone who always struggles, you will unconsciously seek out struggle. You'll interpret neutral events as threats. You'll overlook opportunities, dismiss possibilities, and find proof that supports your identity. Neville understood this long before it became a clinical fact. He taught that your world is yourself pushed out, that your state of consciousness, your feeling of being, is always externalized. This isn't philosophy, it's function. Cognitive biases like confirmation bias, selective attention, and the reticular activating system show that we only notice what aligns with our dominant belief structures. If you assume you are not good enough, your mind will ignore praise and magnify criticism. But if you assume you are valued and worthy, that same brain will filter reality to reflect support, respect, and recognition. And these biases are not just intellectual, they carry an emotional charge, meaning we don't just think our assumptions, we feel them. And it is this feeling that Neville emphasized again and again. He said, "It is not what you want that you attract. You attract what you believe yourself to be." Neuroscience now backs this idea through studies in neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself based on repeated thought and emotional experience. The longer you dwell in a state, the more hardwired it becomes. Your brain literally rewires to support your chosen identity. So when Neville asked us to persist in the assumption, he wasn't offering fantasy, he was offering rewiring. You aren't asked to fake a new state. You are asked to wear it, to feel it, think from it, and let it become more familiar than the old one. And the science supports this. Repetition combined with emotional intensity creates new neural pathways. Over time, your reality shifts because you have shifted. Let's bring this home. Imagine two people walk into the same room. One believes they are overlooked. The other believes they are magnetic. Both are seen, but they interpret the glances differently. One sees disinterest. The other sees admiration. One leaves confirming invisibility. The other leaves confirming presence. Who changed? Not the room. The state. Neville said, states are boundless. You are always in one. The question is, which one are you in? And modern research tells us the same. Your perception, your memory, even your body language, they all follow the state you are dwelling in. You don't need more effort. You need more assumption. Because assumption is not wishing, it is selection. The great truth behind both metaphysics and psychology is that you are not your thoughts. You are the selector of them. You are not your current reality. You are its projector. What you accept as true inwardly will become fact outwardly. That's not magic. That's structure. So if you've been wondering whether this teaching is too abstract, too spiritual, or too disconnected from modern understanding, look again. The bridge has already been built, and Neville was already walking across it long ago. You must speak only from fulfillment. Neville never told us to be silent out of fear or suppression. He wasn't calling for repression or pretending we don't care. He was calling for selective speech, a kind of verbal integrity rooted in identity. He said, speak to yourself as the one you want to be, and do so until you are inwardly persuaded that you are that being. This means you only speak from the state of the wish fulfilled. You speak as the person who already has it, not the one trying to get it. Most people speak their desires from the state of not having. They talk about what they're trying to manifest, how hard it's been, or what they still lack. Their words may sound hopeful, but their vibration says, it's not mine yet. And this subtle gap between wanting and being is what the law responds to. Neville was clear. Every word you speak, whether aloud or in the silence of your inner conversation, is a seed. But the seed must match the soil. If your inner state is lack, your words are coated in it, no matter how beautiful they sound. So what does it mean to speak from fulfillment? It means you describe your life the way it is in the fulfilled state, even if outer appearances haven't yet changed. You speak about love as though you are already loved. You speak about money as though it flows with ease. You speak about your work, your body, your world, as if all is already well. And this is not delusion, it is selection. Because your words don't just reflect your state, they reinforce it. There's a kind of speech that arises naturally from the state of having. It's calm. It's matter of fact. It's not an affirmation, it's a description. You're not trying to believe it, you simply are it, and your language follows. Notice the difference between these two internal dialogues. I hope I get the job. I need to prepare more. What if they don't like me? Versus, of course this role fits me. They're going to see it. It's already mine. One is chasing, the other is possessing. Neville would remind us, the latter is not arrogance, it is alignment. This is why it's so important to watch the way we speak to others, but especially the way we speak to ourselves. Your inner dialogue is a constant broadcast, and it's being picked up not by others, but by your own subconscious, the builder of your world. When you speak from fulfillment, you are declaring the state you occupy, not for others' benefit, but for your own embodiment. So ask yourself now, quietly and honestly, what have your recent words revealed about your inner state? Are you talking about your desire as something far away? Or are you describing it as something natural, present, inevitable? Speech is not just noise, it is direction. Speak from the end, and let your words carry the power of one who already is. Challenge as the catalyst for faith. Neville never promised that this path would be without contradiction. In fact, he taught that the moment you assume a new state, the old reality will often push back, not as punishment, but as a test, a refining fire meant to deepen your conviction. He said, when you dare to assume what your senses deny and persist in that assumption, it will become a fact. But in between assumption and manifestation, there's often a stretch of challenge, a space where nothing appears to be changing, or worse, where conditions seem to get even more difficult. This is where most people fall. They take the challenge as a sign they've done something wrong. They return to the old state, they react. But what if the contradiction wasn't a rejection, but an invitation? What if life, in its apparent resistance, was simply asking, do you still believe it's done, even now? This is where real faith is born, not in moments of ease, but in the moments where everything in your outer world tries to seduce you back into the old identity. Neville described this beautifully in his teaching on the bridge of incidents. He explained that once you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, life begins to rearrange, but not always in ways you expect. Sometimes events will seem unrelated, even unwanted, but they are part of the path. They are stepping stones, placed with precision. leading you to the fulfillment you've already claimed within. The key is this: do not judge by appearances. Appearances lie. The senses report only what is past, what was once assumed. They do not show you what is becoming. That is why Neville insisted, to be undisturbed by appearances is the first step in overcoming them. So how do you face challenge? You do not resist it. You reinterpret it. When life delays, you assume it is perfect timing. When something breaks down, you assume something better is forming. When a door closes, you assume a more aligned one is opening. Not because you're pretending, but because you've chosen the end. And everything between now and then must serve it. There's a story Neville told about a woman who imagined herself in a better apartment. Shortly after, she was given notice to leave her current one. She could have panicked. Instead, she remembered, this is not the end. This is movement. And soon after, she found the exact apartment she had imagined. That is faith. Not belief without reason, but confidence without visible proof. And challenge becomes the opportunity to confirm, to yourself and to the law, that you are not moving. Imagine you are on stage rehearsing a role. At first it feels unnatural. The lines don't flow. You question yourself. But as you keep showing up, even when it's uncomfortable, you inhabit the role more fully. Eventually, it becomes second nature. You no longer play the character, you are it. Your new state works the same way. The challenges are not blocks. They are rehearsals. Invitations to respond as the new self, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, because that is when the state begins to solidify. So if you're facing resistance now, good. It means the old world is cracking. Stay inwardly faithful. Keep assuming. Let the fire temper your knowing, not extinguish it. Every contradiction is a chance to say, quietly but firmly, I still believe it's done. And that kind of faith cannot go unanswered. Imagination is the true currency. Neville Goddard taught that imagination, not speech, is the real creative force. You can speak all day about your desires, but if your imagination contradicts your words, it is the imaginal act that prevails. Your imagination is you yourself, he said, and the world as your imagination sees it is the real world. This is why it is not enough to talk about success or love or health. What are you feeling when no one is watching? What scene are you revisiting in the quiet of your mind? That is the real creation. Imagination is not a toy. It is a tool. It is the inner scriptwriter, setting the scenes long before the play unfolds on the outer stage. And the most powerful acts of imagination happen in silence, not for show, but because they feel natural, familiar, and true. Words can decorate. Imagination directs. Many fall into the habit of repeating affirmations without shifting their inner imagery. But the subconscious does not respond to repetition alone. It responds to feeling. And feeling is shaped by what you imagine to be true. So rather than focusing on saying the right thing, focus on feeling the right scene. What would imply your desire is already fulfilled? See it. Feel it. Accept it. That is the true investment. That is the real currency. And it always pays in kind. The world bends to your silent assumption. Neville Goddard taught that creation begins in silence, not with words, but with inner certainty. The moment you assume your desire is already fulfilled and persist in that feeling without needing to explain, justify, or seek validation, the world quietly reshapes itself around you. Your assumption, if persisted in, will harden into fact. You don't need to speak from effort. Speak only from fulfillment, or say nothing at all. Let your silence carry conviction. Every reaction, every word, reveals your state, and the law responds to your state, not your statements. So remain still. Assume wisely. Let the unseen inner act be enough. And if you're ready to explore this even further, there's something waiting in the pinned comment, something to remind you of what you already are. Now ask yourself, with complete honesty, if it were already done, who would you be, right now?